Larissa Thomson, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, Larissa, I'm curious about your journey from fashion editor to clean beauty entrepreneur. Can you take us back to that middle of the night moment when the idea for ONDA Beauty first came to you? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, I had just left about a 27-year career in fashion and magazines, and I probably knew for the last 10 years of that I really wanted to move on to something different. And I always have had sort of an entrepreneurial spirit. Even when I was young, I was always creating businesses from 12 years old on. So I finally left the magazine world and took a little time to myself. And it's funny how when you really create space for yourself, that's when information starts to come in, I think. And I've always been very interested in health and wellness and using whatever clean beauty. I'll say that because the terms are thrown around a lot. At the time, I don't think there was a term, but healthy beauty products. And I was shopping one night online, having a really difficult time actually finding things that looked interesting to me. And I just had this, I've said it so many times already, this lightning bolt moment that really came in a nanosecond, where I felt that I really wanted to create a physical space. At the time, it was just a physical space that was an environment for people to come and shop for hair, skin, personal care products that they knew were vetted, that they could trust were safe for themselves, for their families, in an enticing environment that affects all your senses, and someplace where you get that sort of personal engagement either with me or with the staff. You could be educated, or you could just grab something off the shelf and know that you're buying something that's not harmful. So that's kind of, and the next morning, so it really came in like a download. I knew what I wanted it to look like, feel like, smell like, sound like, and it was strange. I mean, it was a little bit odd, and I didn't have any doubts. I felt like it was really needed. The next morning I woke up, I told my husband, who has an advertising agency, I said, I really want to do this. I feel like I'm supposed to do this, and I started working on it.
That's pretty incredible. People in the creative fields, we're all after that lightning bolt moment where just something come to me, something amazing
And
come
you
to me.
can't force it.
You
You
cannot, yeah.
can't. I ask for things all the time. I'm like, come on, but it just happens for whatever reason when it happens.
Yeah, that's why I take my daily walks to give myself that white space. I don't even listen to music so that, just listening to the sounds of the waves. So for lightning bolt to come, because the mind has that white space. So like I do a lot of very specific things to make it happen. So it's so incredible that it happened to you.
Yeah.
So you said that once you had that moment, you never doubted your vision for Onda, not even once. So I find that quite remarkable. Um, you know, I kind of pivoted from one idea to another so many times in the past decade. It's so hard for something like that to happen. What do you think gave you that unwavering confidence?
I wish I could tell you because I'm not somebody that generally, it'll happen once in a blue moon, but I question things. Sometimes I have a hard time making decisions, but this was really so pure in its concept for me, and my motivation was so pure that, and I wasn't rushing to get it done. It was like a steady pace forward. I don't know. I just had this unwavering feeling that I was going to do this. I wish I had advice to give in this particular sense, because in the beginning, a lot of people said to me, oh, brick and mortar's dead. This was 2015. What are you, crazy? What if it doesn't work? And I didn't care. I really didn't care. I just started testing products. I started doing a lot of research on environmental working group, EWG, on ingredients, looking at ingredients that have been banned by the FDA, just all of that. And just it was a steady pace forward. And I just kept moving.
That's
I don't
incredible.
think I really answered your question, unfortunately.
Well, it's hard to answer, right? It's just a feeling.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's no description or explanation
I
behind it.
will say I'm a really intuitive person. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean I'm always right, but like I tend to be more of a feeler than a thinker when I'm making decisions, and I follow my gut a lot. Um, and so that I think made it a little bit easier for me not to question things because my gut really told me, my intuition told me that this is what I wanted to do and what I was meant to do.
Okay. So now the lightning has struck. We have our intuition, we have our concepts, and we're absolutely sure what we're going to do. What happened next? What were some of the first steps you took to validate your concept?
I mean, I talked to a lot of friends who, I have a really strong community of friends that I trust. And even though people were worried for me, they loved the idea. Um, I spoke to, I really believe that, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're going to start something, you have to understand and recognize what your strong points are and what your weak points are. I don't think one person is really capable of doing everything. And so I knew what I was good at and what I needed help with. And what I needed help with was, how do you start a business? Business in general, finances, digital. So I reached out to people in my world who could help me figure those things out. My husband introduced me to somebody that helped me create a pitch deck and a brand deck, basically, to start raising money. I had a friend who helped me sit down and put numbers together. I'm a visual person, so that part came easy. So it was really just like understanding where to ask for help, or what kind of help to ask for, and then who to reach out to. I never have a problem asking people for help, and I'm always so happy to offer anything I have to other people. So I feel like that give and take really works for me. And slowly I started to understand, and before I knew it, I had a brand deck that created, I think, a really strong statement. Yeah, and I went from there.
So we had our deck. You said that you went to investors. What was the reception like to your outreach? Because you said that some people were trying to discourage you, saying that brick and mortar is dead. Is that kind of what you were hearing from the investors as well, or did you have a different reception?
You know, there weren't really, so there are other businesses like ONDA, right, that are curated clean beauty retail spaces, but at the time there really weren't. And I think we had, or rather, I had, been receiving a variety of comments from potential investors. They really loved the idea. I think Goop was around, so they kind of saw the connection there. But they wanted hard proof, at the time. This was initial stages. So it didn't, at first, it didn't go that well. People loved the idea, but they were too hesitant to kind of fully commit financially. And then I brought on a partner because I really felt like I needed to bring somebody on that had, that was my counterpart. So somebody to handle business, to handle digital, and I brought somebody on, and she became that person. And she said, we can do this. Like, we can get this up online in like a couple of months and just start. So we did it actually just without any investment. It was just my money to start it online in the beginning. And then after that, investors came on. We didn't need a lot, because we had already gotten it rolling with the money that I put into it. And we worked out of my partner's apartment. We had an online business. It launched December 1, 2016. We kept all the products there. We shipped everything ourselves. We did pop-ups. This was really important, actually. And we didn't even realize it in the moment. We were doing pop-ups at friends' homes, restaurants, offices, stores, friends we knew that had stores in LA, in New York, in the Hamptons, and we wound up creating a community through our online audience and through our physical pop-ups before we even opened our first store. Which I don't think I realized that was happening. We were just trying to have a business that was flowing. I wasn't thinking, oh, we're creating a community that's going to be there and ready for us when we open our first brick and mortar. But that's what wound up happening.
Larissa, when I'm thinking about the concept of a business like ONDA, two major factors kind of strike me. One of them is taste and curation and the importance of that, which I used to think the world of that. I remember when we had gone to Paris one time, there was a store there called, I think, Colette.
Yeah.
And there's another, I forget its name, in Miami I used to go, like Base something, or I forget its
That
name.
I wouldn't know, but I've been to Colette many times, yeah.
It just, the concept is you go in there with no idea of what you want to get, but now you're in the presence of a person who's incredibly tasteful that put together some stuff, and it's a kind of an interesting level of respect that kind of builds up the brand in your mind. I'm imagining, thinking about this concept and your fashion editing background, the tasteful curation kind of immediately comes to the forefront. But another factor that I really know nothing about is real estate. So I imagine that might be another important factor, like the location of the store. Like, how did you think about the balance of your tasteful curation as a strength versus real estate and location? Did you know much about real estate? Did you learn some interesting things that you didn't know about?
No. Well, the first thing you said, you kind of unknowingly, I think, hit the nail on the head, which is that I really wanted it to be someplace, like I wanted to create a physical environment that felt very personal, that felt engaging, that felt, because at the time, and when everyone was saying retail's dead, I knew it wasn't. I knew it was just shifting away from maybe department stores or larger stores, and people were looking for something a little more interesting. I myself was always gravitating towards very specific shops that, like you said, there was one in particular called Warm that I loved. It used to be in Nolita. And I would find myself going in there just to be in the space, not necessarily looking to shop, because she really brought a lot of her personality into the shop. She's a surfer. She had like all these Polaroids and pictures. Have you ever been there?
No.
Yeah. So it just felt almost like someone's home in a way. And I loved that. And I really wanted to create something like that. So plus I'm an editor by nature. I spent 27 years editing clothing for magazines, so I'm very, I do it quickly, not quickly, but I just know what I like, what I don't like. So it was easy to kind of shift over into the beauty world and create the boxes that I knew I needed to tick off, for things that I wanted to stock in the store. The real estate part, I've lived in Tribeca. I moved to Tribeca because my husband was here 22 years ago. So I felt that I wanted to be close to my home. Tribeca for me is a small town. It's, I can't walk one block without bumping into somebody I know. I have a strong community in Tribeca. Naomi Watts, who eventually became a partner, lived in Tribeca. So I just knew I wanted it to be there. I don't think we even explored anywhere else. And that was why. I didn't think about, I guess I did. I was going to say I didn't think about like whether the ONDA shopper was going to be there, but I guess, it all just kind of came together.
So you opened your first store, purely motivated by your own local community without really giving much thought to real estate values or foot traffic and things like that. But then multiple locations came, and also the story of Naomi Watts. I'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah. So my original partner was an old friend of Naomi's, and she had introduced me. Naomi was really she was there from the beginning because I was talking about it for so long. She was there before I even knew it was ONDA. I just knew I wanted to do something. And she, wait, what was I'm so sorry. Your question was, how is Naomi involved in what else?
And also going from the first location to multiple
Right.
locations, how did that all come about?
Right. So she introduced me to Sarah, who was my first partner, and we started online. Then we started looking at different spaces in Tribeca. And actually, we did choose the final location that we agreed upon because it's right on West Broadway. And at the time, my son was still young, and I do remember thinking, oh, this is kind of like, dropping off your kid at school, walking by here to go home. It felt like a major thoroughfare for people who were going from one place to another in Tribeca. It's just kind of the heart, and it is. So after that, we realized pretty quickly that all of Tribeca was going to exit come summer and go somewhere. And a lot of them go out east on Long Island in the Hamptons. And so we wanted to do a pop-up out there, but we're not successful in finding a space that would allow a summer pop-up. So we decided to, jump through the ring of fire and sign a lease on a great spot we found in Sag Harbor. I felt really strongly I wanted to be in Sag Harbor because East Hampton is kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. And Sag Harbor is, I find, a mecca for all the other Hamptons and is the only one, in my opinion, that still holds on to some integrity of, it's an old fishing town or whaling town. You can still see the water you can see the water from town. It still has its old, what is it, 5 and dime kind of shop in the hardware store. And I like that. I love that. I love it, and they're very strict about who comes in there. Like we had to go
as a business, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're not going to see, hopefully ever, like Tiffany's or Ralph Lauren. Nothing against those businesses, but it's nice to.
Just doesn't fit the vibe.
It doesn't. I mean, to me, you go to the beach, you should see the water. You should be barefoot. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah.
I was very adamant about, and my partner at the time was like, well, what about East Hampton? What about Southampton? But I really wanted it to be Sag Harbor. So we found this perfect location and wound up opening the second store, took a leap of faith, signed a year lease, or actually a 5-year lease, and opened that following Memorial Day. So under a year, we opened our second location. And we were right. Everybody moved out there come summertime. So we had our people who are really happy to now come visit us there, but we also created a new community, which now that I'm back and we don't have the Sag Harbor store, they're all like, when are you coming back to Sag Harbor?
I'm fascinated by your instincts. You're just kind of thinking, this is what I like to do, this is where I'm going, so the shop needs to be there.
It wasn't about me being there because actually when I married my husband, he had a house upstate. So actually our home is upstate. We just rent a place out there in Shelter Island for part of the summer. So actually it was difficult for me. I'd love to be out there all the time, but wasn't. So I had to kind of come and go. But it was fine. We found an incredible manager who stayed with us right till the end. And she, it was almost, she made it her own and she brought in a lot of the community there.
You mentioned that you personally test every product before it hits on the shelves. What's that process like, and what are you looking for beyond just the clean ingredients?
I mean, I do personally test everything, but I also sometimes bring in our staff too. I think more when I question something, because it can't just be what I like all the time, and I recognize that, So if it's something I'm questioning, or I'm like, I don't like this, but I have a feeling somebody else might, I bring in other people on the staff. I love our team. We have an incredible team of people. The process is for me, it starts with the outside. It shows up, and I look at the packaging. I am by nature somebody who cares about design, environment, creative, visual. I'm very visual. So that's the first thing that strikes anybody, right? I might pick up something, and I often do, just because I like the way the box looks. It doesn't mean I'm going to buy it. The next level is, okay, let's open it up. What is the experience of opening this product? And also the eco factor of it, like how much packaging? Is it recycled? Are they using excess plastic or boxing or whatever it is that's not really necessary? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing here, right? We are trying to offer safe products, but also environmentally friendly products and brands who take that seriously. And so the packaging comes into play there. Then whatever it is, I open it up, I smell it, I have a very strong sense of scent. So that hits me. And is it good? Is it nothing? Is it horrible? The texture of the product. And then finally, like, does it do what it says it's going to do? And sometimes that process takes a little longer. With something that says it's, going to hydrate, that might be easy to figure out. If it says it's going to not reverse your aging, but maybe help improve your skin tone, texture, turn cells over faster, then I might have to test something for a while. But, I really take it seriously, and a lot of our customers definitely respond to that. They often come in and say, you guys have the best curation, and I think it's because I put the time in. I don't ever take on a whole line unless I'm in love with it. Actually, that recently happened. I cherry pick because I don't want to be forced into taking these 3 things because I have to, because I like these 2 things, if I don't like the other 3. So I try to really just take in the things that I feel I love, that our customers will love, and that fit within the balance of the rest of our curation. I don't want 10 different vitamin C's, because then I'm often having to explain, like, the question is asked, why do you have 10 vitamin C's? I want 3 really good ones that maybe do slightly different things.
Okay, that's interesting. So if you're kind of considering the number of products that contain a certain ingredient, for instance, like, how do you think about, okay, let's go back. How many products do you want to have in the store? How do you decide that number? And how do you decide the ratio of certain types of products, like finding that balance? That sounds like a really difficult thing to do.
You're not gonna. The answer's silly. It's intuitive also, but it has to do with space. We only have so much space in our store, and recently, when I bought back the business, I had to really look around because there were a lot of brands in there that I didn't bring in, that I didn't love. So it took us time to took us almost a full year to move some things out, bring some other things in.
Also, it didn't start from scratch. There was an existing line of products already in there that you had to replace.
Well, so wait, do you know I bought my business back?
Oh, so I know that, but where are we now in the story? Have we moved past the buying it back? Oh, this is the buying it back part.
Right.
When you bought it back, now there's other stuff there.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about. Got you.
I'm talking about that because that's where I am now.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So if we step back, actually, So if we step back pre-purchasing it back, when the curation was completely mine, it was really like, I really focus on what the customer wants and needs, and I listen carefully when they come in. Like right now, everyone's looking for a face moisturizer. So I've been meeting the woman who heads up our inventory and brand communications and saying, I don't know that we have enough moisturizers. Like we have 3 really expensive ones. We had a couple of brands that were like, the price point was lower. We don't have those anymore. So to me, it's like everybody wants a moisturizer. We should have enough variety within that category for people who want a light moisturizer, a more heavy moisturizer, active, sensitive skin, and then the price points. Because like the Mama is, or I don't know how you would put it, but Augustina's bought her Rich Cream. It's amazing. It's also, I think, $300 and I might be getting this wrong, $350. Not everybody can afford that. So we recently brought in another moisturizer that I feel is similar in its richness, but a much better, much more affordable price. So I try to kind of do that with every category, and especially the more popular categories. So, I'm not going to ever carry a million different kinds of mist. It's just not as popular as, let's say, a face oil, a face cream, an active serum. So that's how I balance it. Like, what are the brands? What are the different types of, let's say, moisturizer, the price points, and like which ones are resonating with which people. So I try to make sure that there's something for everyone.
And how do you find out about new brands, new products? Do you reach out? Do they reach out? Is it a little bit mixed?
In the beginning, you have to imagine, like, clean beauty was such a new environment and landscape in the beauty business in general. So I could probably count the ones I loved most on both hands. So we were doing a lot of reaching out, and we were very lucky. People were very responsive. There were only maybe 2 that wanted to see how we were doing first before they committed, and they eventually came on. But now, since we've been around a while in different incarnations, meaning I sold the business, then I bought it back, so it's got a little confusing. People really, the brands know ONDA, they love it. I find that most brands really want to be on our shelves, so I get a lot of emails. I get a lot of people who just stop in unexpectedly, wanting to show me their brand. They call the store. So we don't really often have to look, but I'm also always out there, reading the, Beauty Inc. or different, beauty online magazines and outlets, and just seeing what's new. Sophia Coppola, actually, who's become a friend, is a great resource for me, because every once in a while, she'll text me and say, have you ever heard of this? And I'll say no, because I guess she gets sent a lot of things, and she has excellent taste in beauty products, and she'll introduce me to something that was, maybe just launched and I hadn't heard of quite yet. So different ways, like really different ways.
I just remember this conversation I had on a podcast with the founder of Peach and Lily, and she had started as a curated line of skincare products, which led to her own line, own brand. What are your thoughts about that? Having curated other people's products. What do you think about your own line?
So I've always wanted to do that. We did have a proprietary coffee scrub early days. It was a body coffee scrub that we did. That was fun to do. It's so hot in here. I'm so red. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
I keep seeing my face. I'm like, oh my God, it's really hot in here. Anyway, yes, definitely want to do that, and actually it's in the works. So in terms of where ONDA's going next, that definitely is one of our next steps. I've had a hard time deciding what. I'm not interested in rolling out a giant line, at least not to start. And I'm really not interested in doing, I don't think, a face product. There are so many at this point. Like, nobody needs another face oil. It's incredible to see how much this segment of the beauty industry has grown in just education, awareness, brands in just 5 to 7 years. So I feel like there's a bit of oversaturation for certain things. So I'm focusing more on body, because I think there's still room to grow there, and I have something in mind I can't share yet, but we'll see. It's very beginning stages, but yes, that's on the horizon.
Okay. Larissa, my final question. Top 2 problems giving you a headache right now, and top 2 priorities you're excited about for the year.
one thing I always think about, because I don't know that we're necessarily going to open more ONDA stores. I'm not sure. But we do want to do ONDA collaborations. Like, we're exploring 2 different hotels right now. And because, we're very popular for our treatments. New York Magazine gave us, one of the best facials in New York with our lead esthetician, Kristen May Lee. And our treatments are well-known, unique, like top of class. And so I'm interested in kind of getting together with hotels and trying to create ONDA spaces within other businesses, hotels or other. And I think doing that or doing more stores, the challenge is, as you grow, how do you hold on to that integrity? How do you hold on to that original vision? Because it gets diluted, right? And as I know from prior days, we had 5 stores at one point and 5 shops globally. And I think, I can only be in so many places. And so it's difficult, to scale anything and to grow. I think the challenge is, like, how do we really keep that personal connection, that integrity, that incredible staff communication that we have with our community, like, just all of it. All of it has the look, tone, touch, feel, all of that, like, is very important to ONDA. It's about engagement across the board, with the products, with the people, with the environment. Like, how do we hold on to that? Mm-hmm. That's one challenge. The other is we're trying to reach younger audiences, but in an authentic way. We find that we're not interested in being gimmicky or over-promising solutions. And I find that with the younger audiences on certain social channels and out there in various other businesses, like, it can go that way. We'd like to figure out a way to reach younger audiences, but using our technique of consistency and knowledge. How do we share what we know, share the education, and talk about consistency and not just fast-track solutions that might not work. So right now, those are kind of the 2 challenges.
Larissa Thomson, thank you for sharing your journey with me.
Thank you so much, Bora.